What is up, everybody? We're going to take a look at a recording of this very large trade at the bottom here, you can see. And I'm going to break it down classic Fat Cat style. I'm going to explain everything to why I thought this trade was good, why I was so confident in it, because I held it for over an hour and 14 minutes, which is quite a bit of time. These types of trades don't come around often, and we're going to explain context and narrative behind it, and how I had a lot of clarity going into this specific trade. Now, I have an absolutely free Discord link in the description if you would like to join it. It is a free trading room, and you can see the post from today. Here's a screenshot I took at 11:40 a.m. This was before the ES took a dump, and there's a thick red zone. If you're part of my prep membership, the prior night, you'll know why that thick red zone exists. Link in the description. There's a coffee link. Go there, join the membership. And there is over 22 hours of narrated trades. And this video you're going to watch in this session is a narrated trade that's just for the prep members. So if you want to see this entire trade go down while I'm narrating it, it's got some pretty good commentary. I'm going to break it down in this video after the fact, hindsighty, but if you want to hear like my thinking and why I'm staying in the trade and what I'm looking at for the entire hold of the trade, I pretty much narrate almost the entire hour, and that is for the prep memberships, and that would be episode 21. So there's over 21 episodes. There's got to be well over 100 trades. Again, 22 hours of narrations. And that library is only growing, and not to mention there's got to be like over 100 hours of prep videos. So you can watch prep videos of all of these levels. Essentially, if you wanted to, you could go all the way back in time and see every single level get plotted. Because some of these levels are pretty old, and I gotta say this trade has been in the making for months because of some of the older support and resistance levels that have been tested many, many times over the course of months. Because a lot of levels go back to early June. So these trades don't come around that often, and that's why prep for me is so important, is because it gives me clarity to actually take a trade like you're about to see. And a lot of traders don't do really hardcore in-depth prep, and they don't do the necessary work that when we come back to certain areas, they just don't have any notes or anything written or drawn on their charts, that you guys are leaving money on the table essentially, and you're just missing shit because you didn't take the time to prep it. So that's what this trade is. So at 11:40, so to give you a little context, this thick red zone, and we're going to see it better in the recording, that is a point and control on a composite and this 3-year profile. So there's going to be a lot of things we're going to be talking about in this video that I think it's pretty important you consider going to watch. I have a playlist here. So there's several videos in here, a mean reversion video, a profile video, and my gap jump video. Really, you should watch this entire playlist. So go to the playlist section in order to have more clarity for this trade, because I'm going to be talking about things like gaps and top tick, bottom ticks, potentially pivots and all sorts of fucking shit that's in this video. So just so you have more understanding and clarity of what's happening in this giant trade, that playlist and really watching it and paying close attention is going to help you understand how to get into one of these trades. And this video is beautiful in the sense that you're going to see everything I talk and preach about come together, and this is my trading system. You're going to see my full trading system at play on a very beautiful trade. Again, these don't come around that often. However, this is going to be an amazing case study, and I look forward to doing this with you guys. So somebody asked me, are you're looking for a short? And I go, yep, short 25.75 at 12.02. So you're going to see where that is. And then if we scroll down a little bit at 12.05, I say, all I can say is this trade is A+ as it gets. Best setup for the entire week so far. And again, this is at 12.05. So let's look at the charts. These levels are updated, by the way, so this isn't how the chart looked at the time, but here we are above that red box. So 12.05 would be right up here. And we, obviously, you saw the P&L earlier. We ride it out for an 80-tick ride for over an hour, well down to like 105, maybe a little bit, 14 minutes after, somewhere's down in this section, we ride it to. Obviously, I could have held it longer. I should have, but I glanced at the P&L because I could have really doubled the move, essentially. However, looking at the P&L of that size, I took it off. And I did scale quite a bit more down here, actually, but where the last trade comes off, you'll see. Okay, guys, so with that being said, let's jump into the video. Okay, for those of you that sign up for the Prep membership, this is the episode you're going to want to watch over in an hour and 16 minutes, and this is the narration. I was struggling to get the stream on once I got into the trade. So what I'm going to do right there, so literally we just put it on right there at 25.75. So why am I putting on a trade at this specific price? Well, I'll show you. So what we can see here, and there'll be a better shot of it. There's a top tick here, which I explain in the volume profile video. That's why you need to go watch that playlist if you want to know what a top tick is. And then I believe at this time, Russell is probably doing the same thing. So you're seeing RTY down here, and then you're seeing the ES up here. What's going to happen is you're going to be able to see the charts bigger. So I'm going to fast forward it a little bit, and so you can kind of see what's going on. So this level right here is very crucial in this specific zone. So you could see how I was highlighting that. So this is a major composite low node. I'm going to have to do a module on composites. However, here's a 3-year on the right. Again, the gap jump video, I talk about the importance of the 3-year. You should go watch that. So what I haven't talked about yet that we're going to talk about for the first time here is this is a composite that's spanning more recent price action, where this is a 3-year profile. So the profiles are going to look different. They might have some similarities in certain areas, but for the most part, I know they look similar right now, but they're different. So what's going on right here is this is one of the most major low nodes on the 3-year profile. So it's super unpopular, and it matches with this composite on the left. So I want to use multiple profiles and look for low nodes that match. Now, a 3-year profile low node doesn't always match with the composite. That doesn't always happen, and I sometimes have troubles getting them to match, and it's not going to work. However, I want to pay attention more so to the levels that match. This one being more prominently low noded is why this red line is thicker than the red line up here or the red line up here because it is more important. As you can see, the 3-year has a pretty aggressive profile here. So there's a curve there. And then on the composite, there's a curve here. And then there's a curve here. But this curve right here is only spanning the last 22 hours at this point. So a lot of this composite on the left was built well before this profile here. And if you were part of the prep membership in the early days, you'll have noticed how I marked up the POCs on that specific level like a long time ago, because we're just now revisiting this like in a month or so. So it's been a hot minute since we've been here, but this composite looked like this. So the market, the price just happens to want to go sideways here. And in the prior night's prep, I talk about how it could really, go sideways in this area. And I stopped my prep at this green line. So this vertical green line is where I stop the prep. And I talk about how the market could potentially chop in that prep session. And it could be a pain in the ass. Well, it finally did chop. And once it chopped, it finally gave me clarity, because in the prior night's prep, I was a little unclear. However, at this point, I have a lot of clarity at this juncture. And one of the big reasons is we pretty much cleanly pivoted this low noted section. And not only are we pivoting that, but we are hitting this white box for the first time, which in the profile video, I talk about what those white boxes are. Essentially, that's a 3.5 hour range. You can see it right here. So we're pivoting that for the first time. So I kind of have, I have multiple factors of support up here. The red line being the best potential pivot. However, since this white box is up here, that gives it an extra reason to pivot, because it has yet to pivot. So therefore it's an EV0. I just haven't updated it at this point in time during this trading session, but it's also a 3.5 hour range as well. So that's a beefy range. It went on for 3.5 hours. So there's many reasons to pivot. And then also this red box being the highest noted section, really for many hundreds of ticks in either direction. Like if, these are hundreds of ticks, by the way, hundreds of ticks up and down, because, I get into this and I write it down, and that's about 86 ticks. So this red zone is the highest noted area for hundreds and 100, 200, 300 ticks. I don't know. As far as we can see, this is many points, right? You got 44, 80, 58 up there and 43, 86 down here. And within that, what is that? How many points is that? This is the highest noted region. So in the mean reversion trade, in the profile video, I talk about how this region is super fucking magnetic. Like these high noted regions like this are going to be super fucking magnetic. And it being this big, this large of a size, it's going to be excruciatingly magnetic. So what this means is, since it's that large, the magnetic force goes way out here and way down here. Okay? Now, the reason I have this red box here is I don't really want to trade in here. I view this entire red box as a point of control. Now, these pink lines here are points of control. That's the highest node. It's in the profile video, I talk about how it's not even the mean reversion video, I talk about how it's not a good idea to like trade from the center out. You want to trade from outer edge in. In fact, in that Discord message, one of the first Discord messages before I start this trade, I talk about that very thing, that phenomenon. How you don't want to trade from the red box out. You don't want to be trading in here. You want to be trading into it. Now, what's also interesting is down here, this is major support and resistance where this red line is. There will be a higher time frame chart where we will see that, but there's support. There's a support level here that spans for like 2 months or so. When we get to that point, I'll pause the video so you guys can see that. So for me, there's a good reason that we could potentially break. And also, the correlation video, I highly recommend the correlation video, which was the last video. I still got to put out correlations too. NQ was also correlating, which you'll see here. And NQ was in a major gap jump that had a high EV count. So since NQ was in a big ass gap jump, that's why the gap video is so important to watch. That was leading me to being confident to holding this all the way through. And that is the magic of correlations in this example, really. So let's continue to play this. Here is NQ right here. So what we can see here is NQ, and right now it's starting to hit this low node. And there's a shitload of reclaiming right here. Reclaiming are these one-way moves. And there's a lot of like slip in this zone where it pukes. It just, slipping is a bunch of reclaims that overlap each other. So it's these really hard moves. So that's telling me there's a good chance that the market could absolutely just rip through. Also, what we have going on, again, we have this low node being pivoted up here, which is going to be a major low node. It's the tag says MC, and then it says 3-year. So it's a major composite, which we can't see right now. So there's a low node on a major composite. That would be on the left on a higher time frame chart, and it's a good low node on the 3-year, which is pretty much on all my charts. So that pivoting there gives me confident to get into the ES trade. Plus ES was top ticking, so that also gives me confidence. And I believe Russell was top ticking. So you had Russell top ticking, ES top ticking. And then while NQ's not top ticking, this is more than a top tick. It's still pivoting a major low node. So I have multiple factors to support that this thing could go down, and then you have a bunch of reclaim. Also, this says 10 probes on it, and it has a mess of lines. That is major support and resistance that's spanning, a few months. And the thing is, we accepted under it. So accepting meaning we were trading under it and chopping under that support resistance. This is like classic support resistance. And support resistance isn't a specific price. It's roughly an area. You got to think of it like that. So if we can get under this area, this support resistant, in my mind, we could really blow through and keep going. So see, there's a lot that goes into this shit. But I'm thinking of all these things, and that's what's getting me confident in holding a trade. I know it seems complex, but I mean that's why I have hours and hours of footage and videos explaining this shit, because I'm considering a shitload of information to pull something off that you saw that I was really confident in. Okay, so let's keep going forward. So there's Russell right there. This is Russell right in this section. Russell has the top tick. It's currently down here, but that top tick gives me confidence. And it also has a big reclaim, meaning it's a really hard up move. However, it reclaimed down as well. You can see right in this section, it reclaimed down, reclaim up. So now this entire range is what I consider a slip. So a reclaim would be just it doing it once, kind of right here. You can barely see it because this crosshair is in front of it. But there's a reclaim there, and it never went through it again. So that's a reclaim. This would have been a reclaim, but since it reclaimed the reclaim, now it is what I call a slip. And hypothetically, the market will push through that section relatively cleanly and quickly. And then let's just continue doing this. And as more context pops up, I will show you guys. So I'm updating the EV sections up there. So really, you know, the market is sitting up against my entry, but I'm fine with that because I know what this could potentially be. Also, I am sitting kind of on an intraday high node, the VPOC. So I know there's going to be a little bit of drama. However, again, you've got to take in higher time frame considerations, which I've noticed a lot of traders don't. Most traders really don't pay attention to the higher time frame, and they don't pay attention to really things that have happened in the past. They're lazy about that. That's why I spend so much time doing prep work, because it gets me into trades like this. Again, this red area is highly magnetic, so this is going to have a higher gravitational force than this little measly RTH profile right here with the VPOC, so I have no problem sitting there. And then you have the slips, and then you have the major pivots on the low nodes, so there's quite a bit going on. You got the top ticks going on. So it's going to take time. It's not going to just go down. You can obviously see how choppy these markets are, so you got to just learn to sit through the shit at times. You got to know when to sit through it and when not to sit through it. And for me, this is a sit in it because there's so much going for the trade. This is one of those rare occasions where it just makes so much fucking sense, and the best trades make a tremendous amount of sense, and you just understand it on a deep, intimate level, which I do at this point. So let's continue to hit the fast forward button. This is me just making markers and putting them in the Discord live time. So let's continue to look at the trade. So here is a 30-minute chart. Yeah. Oh, no, this is actually an hourly. So what you're seeing me do at this point is I'm marking up this hourly chart. Oops. I'm marking up this hourly chart, and here's that major low node I talked about that we pivoted on. So, I mean, again, this is a major, big, super zoomed in. So what you guys have been seeing on EES is literally just that little spot, right? Again, this is, you know, the major low node here, which you can see it on the composite. Now that we're zoomed out, you can see like how these low nodes mesh with the composite. And it's kind of hard to see from this perspective, but, you know, certain areas, the composite looks different. This composite looks different than the 3-year. And then this composite right here is only measuring this down move, which I kept talking, when we broke this range up here, I kept talking about a down move for ages in prep. I didn't realize they were going to channel it down like that and it be that aggressive of a channel. That's a huge down move, but it's like such an aggressive down move. Like it's channeling down, and channels are kind of tricky, to be honest with you. But now we're down here in right in these crescent marks. That is all support that's been supporting the market since, well, way to fuck back there. I believe that's early June, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, we can't see exactly when this happened. But as you can see, the market had supported, you know, it's supported here, it's supported here. Yeah, it breached it, but it's supported here. Yes, it flushed right here. So, you know, it did flush right here, and this is a V flush, which I talk about in the correlation videos. You'll see a better example of a V flush, I believe, in correlation 2 video when that comes out. But this is very much a support area, and this V flush. So since they did V flush right here, and I'm gonna have to do a separate module at some point on all this shit. Since it did V flush right there, that gives me confidence that the market should puke, especially since the market started to re-support after the V flush. So what you'll often see is, you know, you'll see a support level and then they'll break it, but then they'll re-support that fucking level. And they can break them pretty hard like this. But it doesn't instantaneously go back, because again, this is a 60-minute chart. Each bar is 60 minutes. But for a higher time frame perspective, it kind of does go back relatively quickly. And then they start to re-support the same area they were sort of supporting over here as well. So, yeah, so they do re-support this area as well. And then, you know, and it's more, at this point, it's really obvious that they're supporting it. Now, if we were to zoom in on a 30-second chart, you would see a lot more noise on the support level, which would give it more clarity to how, like, aggressive the supporting is. It looks like it, you know, just pivoted once, twice, 3 times in here, but really, if you were to zoom in on a 30-second chart, you would see how more aggressive that support would be in those areas. And the fact that it, you know, it's re-supporting really in these 2 sections, this, well, let's just kind of delete everything, because the fact that it is really re-supporting, especially in this section, that's a sign that this is very important to them, to whoever, the buyers, if you will. Now, but also notice this red box that I said is highly magnetic. The reason, this is why this composite looks like this, is because they traded the fuck out of this area. Hence the reason this profile is lumpy right there. And obviously it has an aggressive taper and low node in this section. And the thing is, other than this V flush here, after we came up in this section, because this is like behind my head, this is like the first time we're coming up. Sorry if I cut a lot of that off. So this is like the first time we're coming up into this section. The fact the profile looks this way on the left, and we're barely getting below, you know, we're flush. We flush up once, we flush down once, we flush up really hard, and then we flush into the midpoint, and we're really not even going below at this point. So that's telling me that if we do get through this profile, it could push real hard. Not to mention NQ is in a major fucking gap that has a high EV count that we saw pictures of. And at this point, it's like, well, this thing's going to probably go all the way across, which is in turn going to help drag ES down. So you have 2 extraordinarily high time frame high probability shit happening at the same time in two different fucking markets. Hence the outsized move today. Sure, the news with the FOMC from yesterday is contributing to it. I swear to fuck, not to be conspiracy theory guy, but I swear to fuck these guys understand what I look at, because they just like happen to say the right things at the right time to get this auction market theory shit cooking. I swear to fuck, it is so well executed to get moves going when they're already set up. It's just fucking nuts. So yeah, that's a lot of information to take in. I mean, that's how I get into trades like this. So, you know, for me, this is a major support area where all this shit is. That's major support. So if it breaks, it's going to break hard and it's going to go. And not only, I mean, we're revisiting it, but look how we went way the fuck up here. We went so high up. This is almost like a mega V flush. This is like a giant V flush. So it's like a bigger version of this up here. So this is going to have a tremendous amount of power to plow through this support resistance area. Okay, so let's fast forward. Now here is NQ, and I believe this is a 10-minute chart of NQ, so this gives us a better bigger picture of what's going on in NQ at this point. So looking at NQ, here is that giant fucking gap. Again, I have a video on gaps if you don't understand what that is, but at this point, this gap is an EV11 gap mid-roll heavy acceptance. That is the tag on it. An EV11 plus is a high expected value trade. Now, since this is such a large gap spanning hundreds and hundreds of ticks, you're going to need a very abnormally high EV count to get through it, which this has a pretty high EV count, and it has a mid-roll, meaning it mid-rolled and then it came back up, which is good. So it usually on a heavy gap like this that is so big, it's going to hit the midpoint and then pull back. And in the prep, in the prior night, I was talking about how I think it kind of needs to pull back, which it gives a very beautiful pullback. Pulling back to this beautiful 3-hour prior value zone right here, which is a profile, and it's pivoting off of that clean. And then we come back and then we pivot cleanly off this low node, which you guys saw earlier in the video. Now you get to see the composite. Notice how this composite over here doesn't quite look like the 3-year. And this is where I talk about where it doesn't always match. The lowest node on the composite would be right here. And if we go all the way over here, that is not the lowest node on the 3-year. So what's kind of the next best area? Well, the best area on the 3-year would be here, which happens to be a slight dip in the composite over there. So hypothetically, that's an okay low node to lean on. It's not the best low node compared to the one we saw on ES, where I'm like, oh yeah, this is such a fucking good low node. Again, what I showed you guys earlier, how ES pivoted that really good low node. That was super low node on the 3-year and pretty low node on the composite. This isn't super low noded on this composite on the left. Yeah, it's pretty low noded on the 3-year, but not on the composite on the left. And just from this point forward, if I say composite, I'm always referring to the profile on the left of the screen, and then I will always refer to the 3-year as the 3-year and never a composite from this point forward. However, it's a good area to lean on, which it really never, like, it came up underneath it, but it never, like, just cleanly slapped it, right? It held a little bit, puked, and now this is a really good pullback. Like I love seeing a really good deep pullback and then it holds. And also look what else is going on, just to give you guys more context. Another decent low node right here. I need it. Unfortunately, this composite on the left isn't all the way expanded backwards. You would have to see the hourly chart, because really this profile right here. Actually, let's just pull it up right now. Okay, so as you can see right here, this pink line, I got rid of it. I got rid of what was there. Like, it's gone because, again, these are updated levels, actual chart. But this pink level here is what you're seeing in the recording, and here's where it bounced. Hypothetically, at the time, it was a good low node right there. And as you can see, it was a decent low node on the composite on the left as well. A relatively decent low node over there. I'll erase these so you can kind of see how they're okay low nodes. Obviously, this one's better because this is a deeper low node. So hence the reason it's thicker, bigger. Whereas this one's not really that great. However, at the time, I was leveraging it. Now that things are updated, not going to use it. Just so you know. And I also don't like to go super duper crazy. I like to pick the best, relatively the best low nodes. But yeah, now you can kind of see. And again, this is a 10-minute chart. Let's go back to the video. So again, you can't really see because this profile needs to be expanded and it's cut off right here. But yeah, it pivoted there. And if typically when these low nodes get pivoted, I kind of want to be directionally biased until it hits another major low node or some other insane shit happens. And now that we hit that low node, this for me is a direction change. Let's fast forward. So at this time, I am a little worried about compression. Well, not super worried. So what is compression? We've talked about this in the other videos I've mentioned. So if you're unaware, check the chapter sections. It might be in the correlation 1 video, part 1. What I think might happen is it could start to compress like this. And if that's the case, that's not good. And the other markets all look like they could compress. So right here is ES, and it's starting to look like the beginnings of compression at this point, which isn't good. So I'm going to monitor the trade at this point. So let's kind of go forward. Here is NQ. It almost looks like it's starting to compress as well, although it doesn't have a flat top. Usually you get pretty good flat top. Now, I talk about compression in the Discord around this time, which this is 12:15. So here's 12:16, so a minute after what you guys just saw. I say we could have a 3-way compression in all 3 markets, but too many heavier downside confluences to want to trade compression that's not mature yet. NQ VWAP is about 4th deviation up move from a 2-hour range, so it could puke. So much confirmation. So the compression needs more maturity. What does that mean? It means it needs to compress more. There needs to be more compression. However, we have these deviation bands, which will be easier to see on here. So let me get those pulled up for you guys. Okay, so there's the deviation bands. These are VWAP deviation bands, and I prefer anchored bands over RTH, ETH bands. Not going to really jump into why, but more so There's again, I believe this is a 2-hour range or some bullshit like that. So this is a multi-hour range. You can see it has a relatively perfect bell curve. So I'm going to anchor in the middle of this range right here. And this is VWAP in the middle. Then you have first deviation and second deviation. This is almost like if we was to expand this out from this 2-hour range exploding, okay? Again, we're really looking at this range right here. And again, we're anchoring the center point of that range or the bell curve. Again, it's a 2-hour roughly. Yep, you can see right here, EV1, 2-hour. So it's a 2-hour curve. Here's VWAP, first deviation, and look at the spacing between the bands, right? They're roughly about this size. So hypothetically, this would be roughly a 4 deviation move. Hypothetically, third deviation would be roughly here, maybe a little lower. And then fourth deviation would be up there. So that is a megalithic up move, a 4 deviation, probably higher than that, 4.5 deviation move. That there's a good chance that's going to pull back. Again, these bands can be viewed at like a bell curve almost, right? Here would be VWAP. Here's first deviation, second deviation, and then when you go further to third and fourth, this, most of the trading is going to take place within first, second deviation. So there's a good chance that this thing is going to rubber band back in, which it does. But again, we have other things going on, such as the low node pivot, and the fact that we're in this giant gap as well. So as you can see, I'm overlaying different things to get narrative to really help confirm the trade, if you will. Haven't used deviation bands in a while because I need more bandwidth. Taking on correlations really takes a lot of bandwidth. And once things become more automated and I can process all this information, then I can slowly start to use deviation bands, which I love deviation bands. And I also really do enjoy Delta, but I use these things when I was trading exclusively ES, but since we have to track 3 markets now, it's kind of hard to leverage all these tools. But yeah, I do love VWAP bands. Been using them for ages, just so you guys know. And I just happened to dust one off because I wanted to check this. So that's what's going on right now. So that does give me confidence. Let's see if we do pull up Russell at some point. So here is... So the market's obviously way down from, my entry. Here's Russell. I know it is hard to see, but Russell also kind of has that it might compress look to it. It might compress. However, again, Russell has this reclaim we looked at earlier. So I have higher time frame shit, and I have just more stuff that's given me confidence to hold the trade down, which I've been explaining to you guys for the last 48 fucking minutes. So, just because the market looks like it's compressing, it hasn't compressed yet. And that compression, again, NQ pivoted that major low node until it hits another major low node. I kind of don't, and here's NQ, by the way. I mean, you can see it right here. I really don't even want to trade a compression long because it's pivoted that low node again. So I'm short biased because of that. So I really don't want to be trading compression and panic out because we've pivoted a major low node on NQ, and we've also pivoted the major low node on ES, and until it pivots other major low nodes on the bottom side, I really don't want to trade that compression. Plus, ES is right over that highly magnetic red box. That is the high noted area on the 3-year and the composite. So that's very magnetic. So therefore, the compression could fail at that point. And there's that red box. Again, and you can see the compression is starting to actually fail at that point because, again, this is highly magnetic. And this area is kind of sus down here where it has this sort of support area. So, again, remember how I was showing you guys the hourly chart of ES earlier and explaining support resistance on that chart? And we're roughly, and I said if we zoom in, because I said it only looks like it pivoted here 4 times. You guys remember that? Well, I said if we zoom in, you'll see how more aggressive it is and why that support zone is such a big deal. And we know from that higher time frame view of the support resistance, which I'll actually pull up right now. So there it is right there. I know it's really hard to see, but you guys remember this. And it looks like it just cleanly pivoted one fucking time down here. And then we pulled way back up, right? It looks like we pivoted like cleanly once. But now look at it right here. We didn't. That isn't, since this is a 30-second chart, I believe. Yeah, this looks like a 30-second chart. It's not simply a clean pivot. This is a 3-hour range. This right here is a 3-hour range. And look how aggressively it pivoted 4 fucking times over the course of 3 hours. So when you're zoomed in, that gives you, and the fact that it did that over the course of 3 hours and couldn't break that area and pivoted 4 times in the course of 3 hours gives it more weight on that support resistance area. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far. You can go to the coffee and donate as little as $3 if you're really enjoying this, because this is good shit, guys. This is really great breakdown of this stuff. And I'm explaining how it makes so much sense to me. So show me some love if you want to donate as little as $3. I would appreciate that. It makes doing YouTube worth it. Anyways, let's continue. So, you know, this has a lot of weight to it. And you know, it's up here. And you know, it's not down here. It's up here. And we're breaching the red box, and we're coming back in. So for me, it's like, I feel like it could get pivoted lower. Plus, NQ is in that giant gap. Let's continue. So now we can definitely see how it's puking. Again, you know, this whole area is slip, right? So this whole area is slip. That's going to be another module, but this will be a great reference video for that module. Reclaim up, but even here, they reclaim it up, then they reclaim it down. Notice how they just do it again. They puke that same exact series of prices. In these future markets, if there's ever a hard move, they're probably going to take it back. And I rather trade into that than have it to my back. And I'm trading into it. And then they puke it down again, and then they puke it up. So this whole area is really slippery. That whole area is going to tend to move quickly. Even here, there's this hard area. Yes, they pivot right there, but now we're coming back down. So there's a good chance that's going to stop run. And now we're coming to this 3-hour range for the first time, which is an EV0. So there might be a chance it could pivot here. So I'm kind of looking at it as a potential. I'm marking it up, and now I'm tagging it as an EV1. So those of you that watch the prep videos, you can see that prep is an ongoing process. So when you watch a prep video, it's not like, okay, here we are. Like, all those levels and shit are constantly being updated and adjusted throughout the trading session. And sometimes I can't get to everything, and that's why the prep session's so important, so I can update everything. Because there's a lot of, like, hands-on charting. I'm doing a lot of charting before, after, and during trades. So now it's coming in. It's breaching it. This is no longer compression. It's failed at this point. So let's keep fast forwarding this. So now this is Russell, so we're starting to breach this area as well. All three markets put in this same range. That doesn't always happen. So they're pretty synced up. So here's your correlation. Let's continue. And they obviously bounce it. So there's your EV1 bounce off this hourly range right here. That's an hourly, where NQ and ES are like 2-3 hours. So they're off. So we finally breached that area, which I erase right here. So we're breaching it. So I erase it. So, okay. So again, in the profile video that I have referenced at the beginning of this video, there's a chapter called Life of a Profile. This is Life of a Profile, right? So we delete it. It hit the target. However, there's another profile down here as well. It's an older profile. And we mid-rolled this white box essentially 4 fucking times. Hypothetically, that mid-roll should be ×4. But this is an older value zone from a few months ago. And it's an EV7. And it's whatever it was, it's a 3-hour range. Because I can't see it. So I want to know how long did that range take to make? How long did that value zone take to make? That's why I like to tag the time. So I don't have to scroll back, 2 months of charts to see like how big was that range. This with the 3-hour tag is letting me know roughly how big the fucking thing is. And it's an EV7, so there's a high probability it's going to go through, especially if it mid-pivoted 4 fucking times today. I mean, there's a good chance it's going to fucking go through. And this is what's giving me further confidence to hold this thing. So let's continue to fast forward. So again, here's the higher time frame, an hourly chart on ES. So I might be trying to, hold on. So I'm narrating something. So let's keep watching. So you can, these are, like, I'm not even looking at order flow. I'm just, like, monitoring these fucking charts. Plus, the trade's so far my favorite at this point. Here's NQ. NQ is starting to hit that major support resistance area. I want to see it flush it. And if it flushes this 10 probe major support with all this mess, these are being updated to purple boxes. I'm no longer going to have a mess of lines, which I talk about in the Sierra chart video. It's going to be upgraded so it's not so messy and to make it easier on the eyes. But if it can get through here, then we're good to go. Plus, you have that EV7 value zone I just showed you on, this right here. So if NQ can get through that support level, which it had accepted in the session prior, so there might be a chance it could, plus this EV7 level, that could really cook the market off and drag everything. Russell reprobing this right there, so that could help. Now there's 2,000 right here. This seems like an institution who doesn't look at order flow, which is interesting. That doesn't mean the market's going to bounce. I just think that's interesting. There's over 2 grand there. You don't really see that every day in the market. So that's telling you there's some big deal shit going on. So that's what that tells me. Let's continue. Now, here's NQ probing. Now you can see it went through. And not only is it getting through this support resistance area, but I didn't draw a white box on here. I just drew the white line that says EV2 plus 2 hour, which is this value zone here. Didn't draw the white box that I normally would, but there's hypothetically a white box from up here to this green line down here. Now we're breaching it, and we're also below a support resistance area. That's a pretty big deal. So there's multiple factors to support right here. So this could really help assist the trade in getting it to go down at this point. Again, another mid-roll, not top ticking. It's not bottom ticking on ES right there. So I think it should, and I think it's going to go through. Let's continue to go. Russell really cranking in now. Russell starting the mid-roll. We upgrade the tag to a mid-roll 1 at this point. Let's continue to go forward quite a bit here. All 3 markets right there. Again, under the support resistance and in the value zone on NQ. In the white box, EV7 on ES. And then we're in this EV2 mid-roll area on Russell. So there's your correlations working out. Okay, so we go forward. Now Russell's starting to hit target. Russell had completely flushed through, which is good. Let's continue to go forward. So you can see Russell should be bottom ticking at this point. So I know that. And the market is really a pain in the ass at this point. It's really not getting through. And I believe I start scaling here. So I rewound the video slightly. The first scale out comes. So I'm going to take some off right in this zone. Should have held, to be honest with you. But the market had started puking really hard. Let's see where I take off. Right there at 1075, we take off 4 out of 12. And then I went forward. Then we start to take more off at 7 because, you know, we puke a bit harder at this point. So we're starting to really puke. And then we finally make it through the white box on ES up here on the left. And it's on that major low node. There's a major low node on NQ as well. And Russell is starting the bottom tick. So for me, this is definitely you got to scale it area. And the last scale out is going to be at 115. So not for quite some time. So we sit through quite a bit of grinding at this point. So let's go forward. Okay, so now we're at 1 o'clock, so we went forward, you know, quite a bit there, like 18 minutes or so. So, again, this is why I scaled, because of this low node here on or NQ, and then you can see ES here. Plus, again, this red box is super magnetic, so, you know, we're hitting these major low nodes, and it could pull back in. However, I'm going to leave a little bit on only in case this fucking thing really does break. What's interesting, though, is NQ never bottom ticks. So I'm pretty sure it could. So I'm going to sit through some grind, but there's been many a times where I've left big-ass trades on the table and they come back. And this makes sense to scale at these levels because of what I just explained. Okay, so we go 9 minutes in the future now. Again, this is an hourly long. I mean, you want to watch the whole thing, it's on the prep membership, and I'm narrating it. However, now we're starting. Remember this low node I was afraid it was going to bounce on And then this red box would pull us back in. Now we're like flushing, and now it's starting to hold down, which is good. And we're coming, yes, we bottom tick in Q, but we're kind of coming from bottom up. I'm hoping, I mean, it's in Q. It's probably going to overshoot this red area. I'm hoping this area still has influence and holds the market down. So far in ES, it's doing just that. So now I have more confidence to hold the trade. So 113, 2 minutes away from the final scale out. Here's Russell. I think Russell should start to go to one of these levels, any of these lines, and potentially pivot at this point. Here is ES. Now you can see that it's definitely holding under that low node. NQ's kind of holding under it. It's chopping quite a bit because obviously we saw somebody with the liquidity of 2,000. There's a lot of big traders just moving size around, so it's going to chop. All right, and we'll watch the final scale out here. It's coming up. So at this point, I'm looking at my P&L. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm up 10K. And then I say psychologically, I really want to take this off. Right there. Should have held it. Should have fucking held it. Obviously, we seen on the charts how it went even fucking further. And I could have really doubled the fucking thing. But you know what? Great trade, nonetheless. We're going to get better at that. I'm still developing. I'm not a pro trader. Anytime you guys say that, you guys are saying that. I've constantly said in these videos that I'm not a pro. So I'm still learning. I don't think you ever stop learning. So hopefully that makes sense. And this is where a lot of traders kind of fuck up, to be honest with you guys. You guys don't look at enough higher time frame shit. You got to look at higher time frame stuff. You got to look at higher time frame stuff and really pay attention to that shit, because this is what gets you into these good ass trades. Otherwise, you're going to be fading these down moves and get fucked up, and you don't know why. And it's because, you know, we're breaking major support resistance on NQ, ES. You have a major gap. You have this giant V flush. You just have so much going on that when you do appropriate charting and you leverage your higher time frame, it gives you clarity. And when you have clarity, you'll have more confidence. And when you have confidence, you can pull shit off like this. And this trade was really months in the making. And if I hadn't done prep day after day after day after day after day, constantly updating everything, I would have never saw this. So hypothetically, you're leaving money on the table, and a trade like this is going to pay for bad days. That trade right there paid for like over 3 drawdown days. So that trade right there paid for quite a few losses in the future. So, and those are very much needed, in my opinion. So it's important to be looking at higher time frame, which a lot of traders just simply are not doing enough of, and they're not being meticulous enough tracking certain things. And that's how you build narrative. And this is how everything I've been talking about in all of these videos start to come together, and then you have a great trade like this, using all the techniques and tactics that I've been sharing with you guys. As you can see, it's not just one setup. It was a combination of many setups in many different areas: support, resistance, profile plays with high EV, gap plays, V flushes, higher time frame mean reversions. It is a combination of many different trades, or setups, I should say, that made this trade possible, and they all domino into each other. So it was like a domino effect, and those are the best trades. In the moonshot video, that was many days in the making as well. These really big trades you see coming from me is months in the making. Did I know this was going to happen today? No, not until it finally fucking set up. And then I'm like, oh, this is it. Because like last night in prep, I wasn't quite sure what would happen. And I really don't know what's going to happen until the price action chops. And right on the hard right edge, the more price action I have, the more information I have, the better. Also, on ES, that again, earlier in the video near the beginning, I talk about how this is a 22-hour range. Well, that was a 22-hour range puking to the downside. And in one of my prior videos, either the profile or the range video, I talk about the longer a range goes on for, the better the risk reward is. So a 22-hour range puking is going to have a harder move than a 3-minute range. So again, and this trade is so unique and nuanced, there will never be another trade like this trade. However, what this trade has in common is these basic setups like gaps, value, profile plays, mean reversions, all that shit. It's just the way I layer it and combo it all together is how I'm able to squeeze a trade of this magnitude. So hopefully that gives you guys more clarity in how this is done and how this really is pretty complex shit. And it takes a lot of time to learn how to do something like that with a shitload of confidence. Because a lot of times where traders might get into a trade like this, it might just be luck. But I knew what this was. I knew, and I showed you guys the Discord chat where I said this is probably the best trade of the week before it even went this far. How would I know that? Okay? I have confidence in the system in the way I put the information together and domino it all together, because not one setup is alike. They're all different and unique. However, the techniques and principles are the same and very similar. Top ticks, bottom ticks, reclaims, mean reversion, profile plays, gap jumps, high EV counts, V flushes, correlations. All that shit is similar, and all that stuff plays into another trade, whether it's a scalp or a big hold. All that shit feeds into each other. And when it happens to all just like align is when you get these really good trades. And when it dominoes and you just have shit after shit after shit below, or even on the upside that just combos into one another, that gets shit really cooking. That's why a lot of chop is good, because chop is ultimately like a cake baking in the oven, and it's going to be super delicious once it's finally ready. And if it takes a month to get a really good trade, then so be it. All right, guys, go ahead and check out the playlist, and I will see you in the next video. Please like and subscribe as well.